Okay. All right, Jade, we are live.
Ooh,
Welcome to Burley Corners, Jade. Virtually speaking. Uh,
that's
we got,
nice.
yeah, we got stories at Sundown here in Burley Corners in northern Penfield Township. As always, I'm Mac McCullough. And my guest today is my colleague, Jade Woodridge. Welcome,
Hello.
Jade. Jade is
For having me.
I guess the technical title is she's a reference librarian, but Jade does a whole lot of things for us, just like everybody who works at Willard does, right? You wear a lot of hats. But
Mhm.
among the things that Jade handles is if you've got book clubs in town, you probably talk to Jade. She orders all of our fiction, all of our new fiction, and manages a lot of our displays. She does a lot of community outreach, and I just thought it would be a good day for you to meet somebody on the staff. So, hey, Jade, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure. So, I always ask folks, what brought them to their career of choice and what, your path to Battle Creek. I'll bet you didn't set off. You went to Seton Hall?
Seton Hill.
Seton Hill, sorry.
Yeah,
Duh.
everyone says Hall.
Well, I know there probably is a Seton Hall, but
There
you probably
is.
didn't set off at Seton Hill and be a track star with the idea that you're going to be a librarian in the Midwest. So, so tell us your story, Jade.
It is a roundabout one. So I like to write. I like to read. So out of high school, I was like, I want to do English literature, English, English lit. So I get all the way to Seton Hill, and I see a major that says art therapy. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. I want that now. So I started off my 2.5 years in art therapy. I love the art, I love the psychology, but as soon as we hit counseling, it just was not for me. So then I
Huh.
said, I want to head back over to English Lit. So I switched my majors to English Lit, um, expedited like all of my courses to catch up with everyone. And then I got a job working at my campus library. The librarian there asked me, so what are your plans after Seton Hill? And I'm like, I don't know. I didn't think that far ahead. So she said, why don't I look into becoming a librarian? And so I was like, I did not know that that was an option. Like, I worked there, but I didn't know that I could be one. So I went on a quest, I would call it, and I interviewed librarians. I interviewed the law librarian there. I was trying to find where I fit in. And I even went to my old elementary school to talk with my elementary school librarian as well. And she had me sit in on the afternoon and everything with, with the kids and everyone. So then I thought, okay, I could be a librarian. So that was when I started to pursue actually becoming one. And last year, I finally masters. So
Yeah.
yay!
Well, you did that while working at Willard.
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah. So started college and did not know what I wanted, and then here I am, and I found the place that I fit.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and you got into this business at one of the
Mhm.
weirdest times that you could enter a public I mean, you talked about different kinds of librarians there. I mean, there's academic law librarians,
Worked in
school
academic.
librarians. Yeah, there's all kinds. Public library, that's a pretty special breed. I mean, it's about the public, and suddenly we can't see the public.
Yeah.
So, what was that like?
Well, first off, when I was working at the academic library in Virginia. my role was basically to help the students, like with technology, like book a librarian now was my full-time role there. So I was conditioned to help. And then not being able to help, not being able to get within so far of, you know, people, it was so hard because it's like, it's an automatic thing, you know, help this
Yeah.
person. Okay, wait, hold on. You know, everything else is in the way. It
Yeah.
was,
And so, for anybody watching who doesn't know, a book a librarian is where you can make an appointment at Willard to get one-on-one help, often with computers. It doesn't have to be with that, but often it seems to be that way. And it is. It's often you're helping somebody who has a very minimal or almost, and sometimes some cases, no knowledge of how to use technology. And try doing that without sitting with them, right? you know, try to tell somebody how to right click versus left click on a mouse without being able to reach over and grab the mouse from them.
we make it work.
And we make it work.
We've made
Yeah,
it work.
we have made it work. Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's as good as in person, but it's getting pretty good, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. But then you've also, as your role as a librarian, uh, you brought in, I mean, from the beginning, and we started very early with this kind of thing, virtual programming, and you brought in authors.
Yeah. So I was actually really happy about the first author I brought in. Beverly Jenkins, I believe, was the first author for the virtual.
Mm-hmm. I think you're right.
And
They all blend together to me sometimes, but
so I was happy because my aunt was the one that actually got me reading her. This is a
huh.
Avon teen romance, and I started this when I was in middle school. And my aunt would always tell me, you know, this author, this author. So when she finally agreed to be on here or virtually at Willard, it was like an excitement to actually have her on, and then also it was something sorry, new to host something that was virtual. So it was just new all around.
yeah. And who was the author we had? And maybe you didn't bring him in. It was fantasy writer. Was that your not fantasy? I'm drawing a blank. That's the number one rule as a show of an online program is know your material before you bring it up. So I apologize, viewers. But I think I actually really like the author visits on Zoom. I don't know. There's a lot of things or StreamYard or whatever the virtual program is. One, it's
I
easier
like
to
them as well.
one, it's easier to
Yeah,
get them.
that too. But it's like they're from everywhere, and it's like it pulls you in. It, they're from everywhere, and it's like you have them right here in front of you. So the one author, no, he was an artist, and he is originally from Argentina,
Yeah,
and we had him virtually. So that was amazing to have someone from Argentina here, like here. So I like that aspect of it, like pulling everyone from everywhere to have them right here at Willard.
yeah. And even though it's not in person, there's kind of intimacy that when you're watching and they're right in front of you,
Yeah.
you can see them. And you can ask questions. No one's asked any questions or made any comments tonight. And folks, remember, you can still do that. But and we'll answer them. We'll put on, stump the
Dump the
librarian,
hosts.
stump
Yeah.
the host, not the host,
And the librarian.
and the librarian. So and talk a little bit about book club in a bag. I'm putting your stuff up there. And this is how you get a hold of Jade, by the way.
Yeah. So if you're a part of a book club or you're wanting to start one up, you can contact me. We have a list of suggested materials. If you look at it and don't want anything on there, if you have your own title in mind, email me and I may be able to order it. I order 8 copies in paperback, and yeah, I just send them out. Most of the time, I do all the research and find you the discussion questions and added materials if they're available online. And yeah,
Yeah.
I like it because they turn me on to titles that I hadn't heard of, and I read the synopsis of it, and I think I might want to read this after them.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have any idea of how many book clubs are going at any given moment, or does it
Um,
really wax and wane?
I do not know. I know that I have a lot of regulars,
Yeah.
and then I have a lot of people who are in those regular clubs I have, but it's just their time to pick the novel, I'd say.
Yeah.
So there's a lot.
Yeah. And there's something about reading a book with others and discovering it together, right? I mean, it's you go a little deeper. For some of us, it's a little bit of discipline to make sure we get through the book. Um, but that's a nice segue into another one of your responsibilities, which is BC Reads. Um, and we just
That
went
was
through. Yeah, we just went through too. We had. Well, go ahead and you tell them about it.
I don't have the other one with me, but we had the distance between us, and we also had a woman is no man, and those two. So it started off with a theme, which was ties that bind us, and I
Uh-huh.
wanted to start off with a theme to focus on, so that we can find materials like from all walks of life to fit the theme. And we ended up having a memoir from about the authors um, crossing from Mexico into America. And then we had the other one, which was a novel about 3 generations of Palestinian women, which we found out that A Woman Is No Man was based off of the life of the author, Etaf Rum. So
Yeah.
that was amazing to hear.
Yeah. Yeah.
And sad too, in many ways, if you've read the novel, that you know.
Yeah. Yeah. And how did that go over virtually?
Both of them went really well.
Yeah.
Um, with Etaf Rum, that ended up turning into an interview, and that was so much fun.
Yeah.
It was like it was like I had her in front of me, like 2 old friends, just talking. So that went really.
Yeah. Yeah. BC Reads has been such a. I mean, so popular since its founding in I think 2006. I think it was. Um, and it's changed a little bit over time. So we're getting started right now and thinking about next year. How tell people a little bit how we're going to go through that.
So again, we're focusing on theme, and this time we want the community to pick the theme. So we're go- going to have a list of themes to be made available, and we want the community to pick which one that they want to see for next year, or which theme they want to explore for next year.
That is so cool. That kind of gets back to the roots because when it started, it was a big community-wide committee, and yeah, we all had to read. We all had summer assignments to read the books and then come back and vote. So that's kind of cool. Are you taking suggestions from the community now, or is it still just a little early for that?
Still a bit early. Still a bit early. We're still collecting the themes and then organizing it in like a. We're gonna have 2 large posts, one at Willard and one at Helen Warner.
All
So all
right.
of that is still in the works.
All right. Well, I don't have a contact, but you can still fill her inbox. I mean, so go ahead and even though it's too early, bug her with questions. No, but that's really cool. And so, I also wanted to touch on because it's been really noticeable since you've been sort of running the acquisition of our fiction. And actually, I think it's reflected also in the choices for BC Reads. You've put a lot of effort into, the word diversity is maybe overused sometimes, but it really is about um, you have this balance act. We have to keep all the quote top tier authors in
Yeah.
good supply. The folks that that pump out novels all the time, but there's a lot of really interesting, fresh authors in our collection. So, talk a little bit about how you go about that, and yeah,
It's it's hard because I know what I like to read. So it's kind of like filtering out I like and trying to find things that I think the community would like. But our vendor, Ingram, have a lot of lists that I work off of. And we'll hold on.
oh, I'm sorry.
There we go.
I'm always
Litter.
getting the questions up after you've moved on to the other topic. Bad host. Um,
Bad host. I'm sorry. No, you're good. So yeah, I'm looking into authors now to hopefully have them virtually. But I would also like to balance it out with in person because I want my copies signed. So
yeah,
there's that.
yeah.
um
I'm really looking forward to doing hybrid programs where we have. Yeah, I don't think we're gonna lift the gates and suddenly have 200 people crammed in a room anytime soon. I think we'll probably have smaller audiences or be able to have smaller audiences. So I'm looking at hybrid issues, hybrid events, and you can have an audience with a virtual author too. So there's all kinds of ways we can think about it. Anyway,
yeah.
we interrupted your flow of thought there. Your trail of thought.
Um
Your the diversity of the collection.
yeah.
Um,
So there are lots of lists available, and because I've been working from home a lot, I use my own laptop to search titles. And the weird thing about Facebook is it learns. So now I get all these articles and lists like the top fantasy ones of the year or
yeah,
top crime novel releases, get all of those on my Facebook. And sometimes it's annoying and sometimes it's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna order this. So that helps a lot.
yeah,
Um and knowing like I like the displays also at Willard because it lets me know what people are liking out there on display. So I'll order more of those items as well.
yeah,
So there's a lot of things that lead into ordering.
yeah. Well, and it certainly generates a lot of conversations with library guests too. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I have to say that one of the things that had to change when we reduced our the number of people out in the building. We don't have students working for us, and I miss them. But I have to say that shelving books and being responsible for all of that, I have become so much more knowledgeable about what we have and what's moving and what isn't. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and it's really brought me a lot closer to that reader advisory kind of role, I think. And I've really enjoyed that. And I think people enjoy it too. I mean, they love seeking you out. If they've had one good suggestion, they'll seek you out for another, right? Yeah.
And with having to shelve everything, I've noticed that this is a lot. more handy now because I can take notes of the new items we have that I want to read that I can't read now. So I've got a long list of nonfiction and fiction that I'm like, okay, I will read at some point because this sounds interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
A long list.
So here's a question for you. I mean, and everybody, even if they're a librarian and they love books, like in general, they have what they like versus what they don't. I mean, how do you, I mean, is that ever an issue that you're inclined to bring in more of the kinds of things that you want or the kinds of things you think ought to be there versus, or are you pretty good at that?
No. So I do catch myself sometimes when I make an order list that has too much science fiction on it, and then I'll kind of like even it up with inspirational or urban or other genres. So I will catch myself, but that's actually why I like working at Willard because there's so many. We have Club 815s
Yeah.
where we share what most staff has been reading and to hear those and basically what is liked in this area. Because I'm from Maryland and I had never heard of a single Amish romance writer until I moved here. So learning about all of that, it's kind of made me zone in on those specific areas.
Yeah. I mean, there is definitely like regional flavor and regional tastes. I mean, I grew up in Pennsylvania. We have Amish folks, but we, you know, it wasn't like we had in the paper when I worked there, we had the Amish cook that we ran, and it still runs. I mean, it's been through 3 generations, I think. And miss one day and you get calls, where's my Amish cook? So, but yeah.
Like I actually kind of like them. Like I started reading them like just to know what it was all about. And I've read Shelley Shepherd Gray's
Yeah.
Her Fear and other ones in that series. And I liked it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'd recommend.
Yeah.
And that's part of what I like about ordering is being able to see these new authors and new genres that I hadn't heard of, and then I'll read them and I'll like them.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, I don't know how many people in the public know this, but you are yourself a writer, and
Dabble.
dabble. You've had a few. You had a few recent successes. So I'd like to, talk a little bit about your work, and I have to say that reading your selections there, I would say that there's a certain mysticism to them. And I think it's even though I read I read everything that you sent my way, and so they have their different takes and different content, different storylines, but in all of them, I feel a little mysticism, which is you said you had a bent towards science fiction, but that's not what I see in your writing, at least not what I've read so far.
Speculative-ish,
Yeah,
maybe. Yeah.
yeah. So
Well, I always, always have been. There we go. Writing. Always have been a writer, but it was more so because I felt like I could get a lot more out on paper than in words, and it kind of circles back to my speech impediment.
yeah,
I could get more out with written than spoken word. So I wrote a lot, and I would put them. I actually have them here into these. Um, and I'd have pages
yeah.
of them. Oh, wait, there we
There you
go.
go. Shorts. Okay, cool.
and volumes of them from like 2005 all the way up until now. I would just write and write and write. And they always seem, reading them now, they seem very sad. And I think that's where the mysticism, I guess, stems from. Just thoughts that I haven't been able to speak out loud or just in my writing. Yeah. And what
And so you're
themes have
dealing
you
with
noticed?
you've. Oh no, I was going to ask a question when you say sad. I mean feelings that you weren't able to process, and so you turn to pain. Well, that's I mean that's every writer to some degree, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
At
So
least
there,
at least to start, at least to start. But it's a conversation with your subconscious.
yeah. And I've got a lot of those angry ones, sad ones. I was reading one before this, and I was like, this is so sad. Like, I want to hug me, hug little small me. Yeah, and that just kind of continued on. Um, my first publication, it happened in sophomore year of college. It was just on a whim. I said, okay, I'll just submit this. And the next evening, they're like, yes, we want this. So that was a surprise, but that also made me think that, okay, I could be a writer. One patient saw something in this.
Yeah.
And literally all it was nightmare I had. I woke up in the middle of the night, wrote it all out, went to sleep again. And then in the morning, I edited it and then sent it off on a whim.
Yeah.
Conversation with my subconscious.
See how insightful I am. Good host. That's great. So I have a copy of The Invisible Boy, which is pretty short.
Yep.
The Meadow,
That was the one that I sent off.
That was the one you sent
That
off.
was the nightmare.
That was the nightmare. And I mean, that's such an interesting premise. Everybody sees this frightening child, is the kind of best way to describe it, I think.
Yep.
But you can't. But
Mhm.
you sense this child. And I don't know. I mean, it's almost like you have sort of an understanding with this entity that scares everybody else, but you can't see. How does that sound?
That's, yeah. Like, everyone has asked me what it meant, and I'd say honestly, I don't know. It was a nightmare I had. Like, I don't know what it means. I just wrote it out, and that's how a lot of my work is. It's something that it'll be either a nightmare or I'll zone out and just have this thought, and then I'll write it out, and I won't know what it is or what it means until after.
Yeah. A copy of I don't think you provided me a link to the full. Is the Sweeper Man available anywhere where I can read it in full? I read the excerpt from that interview.
No.
Who was that interview with?
That was actually with another author that we have her novel at Willard. Her name is Michelle Renee Lane, and she's actually an alumni of Seton Hill as well. And I found her by accident. I ordered her novel for Willard, and I said, this looks interesting. So I read it and then read the author, and it said Seton Hill. I'm like, wait a minute, that's where I went. So then I reached out to my writing professor and said, hey, I found one of your students. So she saw that and then friend requested me on Facebook. And so that's how that happened.
Yeah, that's neat. I didn't know that. And the thing you submitted was to Fiction Fragments, right? And that's
Yep.
her interview. So, folks, that's the interview, which is interesting. It's an interesting, short little interview, and it's a neat story. I'd love to see the whole thing sometime if you feel like sharing. But I mean, it's a neat story. I mean, it's ominous. I mean,
They
these two
all
young these two,
skew.
yeah, yeah. You are what I like in an author. You go to the dark places, and yeah, and we've had conversations that you shared conversations with you've had with your parents about why is it so dark.
Yeah. Can't you write anything happy? It's like, I try, but it sounds fake. So
Yeah,
I write what comes naturally, and they all skew dark.
yeah. Well, they deal with dark issues, but I think there's light in them. And again, I can't wait to more of the public gets to be able to read more of your stuff. Um, you look like you're about to show me something.
Yeah.
Go ahead, show me.
So this was my first paid publication, and we have it at Willard now. I'm on page 166. Yeah, and this story I had been trying to get published for years, and then last year, Midnight Indigo was like, we want it for our speculative story edition. So that was like, I don't know, I was so hyped up over that they this year they actually wanted me to write another one, or they bought another one of my stories as well. So that will come out the end of this year. So
Okay.
I'm happy about that.
That's awesome. So, all you Willard Library folks, you can track the origins of one of our next famous novelists right here in Battle Creek. How about that? And so, because you are in charge of developing our collection, and I just kind of wanted to ask you about a couple of books that you're
Yeah.
excited about.
Yeah. Where's my journal? Because I wrote it down.
Oh, I got comments here. Let's see. Oh, we already had that one. Annie's a power reader too. You probably know Annie.
Both authors I like.
Okay, there you go. And then our colleague, and we're all very proud of you and your accomplishments.
Thank you.
Okay, so what books are you excited about?
So there's actually one, or lots of them, but starting with one of them, it's called The Chosen and the Beautiful by Ningi Vo, or Ingi Vo. And that one comes out in June. And that is her first novel, but we have her novellas available.
What's the name of that book again?
The Chosen and the Beautiful. And so I wanted to read her novellas so that when the novel comes out, I'll know, her writing and everything. But all of her novellas that we own are out. And I'm like, no, I want to read it. I want to read these. But I think we had two each. They're all out. So I decided, okay, audiobook. Audio is all out. I'm like, so that one's on my list.
And how do you spell the author's name?
Nghi.
Hold on one second. I'm not that fast. Nghi.
Space VO.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Just in case anybody at home wants to write that down and look for this one to come out. And when is it coming out?
June 1st.
Okay. And what else were you going to talk about?
Land of the B- Big Numbers by T. Ping Chin. And that one is a collection of short stories.
Oh, spell the names for me, please. We should have been
P-E,
prepared. P-E?
yep, hyphen P-I-N-G
Mm-hmm.
space C-H-E-N.
There. I'll put that one up too. And that's a
Uh,
collection of short stories?
uh-huh. And I'm reading now In the Company of Men. And that one, she wrote it, the author Veronique Taggio. She wrote that about the Ebola virus, but she tied it into what's happening now. And she even wrote that if West Africa or the way West Africa handled the Ebola outbreak, it sets them ahead of everyone because they know how to handle a pandemic, and they've handled coronavirus extremely well because of all of the precautions that they've learned with Ebola. And it reads like a collection of stories, but it's all around one theme, and it leads you from like it starts off with children playing in the woods, and then they come down with Ebola, and then it leads into their family and everything. And then the next chapter is about the sorry trees in the woods and how they're viewing everything. Everyone's ill, everyone is away, and the natural order of things are all out of whack. And then it leads into the nurses and all of that. It's just everyone's perspective on this one event.
Spell the author's name for me, please.
V as in Victor,
Mm-hmm.
Eronique.
Mm-hmm.
Last name T
T?
as in Tom. Yeah. Adjo. Adjo, I believe. Yeah.
You get that right?
Yep.
Awesome.
So
Cool. That
interesting
sounds
stuff.
fascinating. And it's nonfiction, but it sounds like
No, it's
it's fiction.
fiction. It's
Okay.
fiction, yeah. But
Okay.
yeah.
You told me that recently you were on a nonfiction kick. So is that
That
over
is what.
already?
Yes and no, only because the audio I was listening to expired, so now I have to wait in line. So, yeah.
Oh, so cool. Well, it's a pleasure having you on, Jade.
Thank you for
Any
having me on.
Oh yeah, any words of wisdom that you want to leave? Any subjects that we didn't touch on that you want to talk about?
No subject. Words of wisdom. Write what's in your head. Like, no matter if it's happy, sad, no matter if it's something that someone's already heard, just write it out.
How much do you write a day? Do you set a goal every day that you have to write so much?
No,
Okay.
I just write. And on that note, this is my future novel.
Oh, wow.
473 pages that I'm editing. I'm trying to edit about 60 pages a day. So,
Wow. I don't know where you find the energy, Jade. You work pretty hard at the library too. So, and does this book in process have a working title? Or
it
you?
does not.
Okay.
It's gone through title changes. So as of now, I just have a blank because I don't know yet. I'll wait until the end.
Is it a speculative, science fiction-y?
Science fiction-y fantasy hybrid.
Awesome. Well, I can't wait to read it. Jade, thank you for joining us. And we'll see. Come down to the library, folks. You'll see Jade, and she can give you all kinds of leads on your next great read. We have a ton of them. Next week, my guest is Justin Andert, who a lot of people got to know through the Color the Creek initiative. That's 3 years now that's been going on. But he works with entrepreneurs, and he's a local resident I should say a native, who went off into the big world and came back and realized that he had everything he needs right here in his hometown of Battle Creek, and is enjoying life. So that'll be a fun conversation, and I'm looking forward to it. Enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll see you soon.
Bye.